Hello and welcome to this weekend reading vlog. This weekend is the weekend of Becca's 48-hour Bookoplathon round and I am very excited to be taking part. The readathon will be completely live as her previous round was, I think, a year or two ago around the same time of year. So there will be reading sprints going on throughout the entire weekend, which I'm really looking forward to participating in because I need the motivation. My reading has been very patchy recently. So I am looking forward to reading as much as I can this weekend. I've had a really busy week at work as per usual at the moment, but I have no plans whatsoever for the weekend apart from this readathon. So I look forward to spending lots of time at home relaxing and reading as much as I can. Obviously the motivation of reading sprints is very helpful for that. So in terms of the first two prompts, we had a short book, so a book under 300 pages, and also a book featuring or themed around gods. So for these two books, I have decided to pick, first of all, The Tea Dragon Society for short book. This is a graphic novel. I hardly ever read graphic novels, but I've heard very good things about this one, and it seems like just such a cute story and beautiful artwork. So I've actually found an e-copy of this, so I'm going to read that one as my very first book, and it will also enable me to tick off an entire book, an entire prompt very quickly, I am sure. The other book I'm going to read is significantly larger, and that is for the Gods prompt. I've picked Gods of Jaden Shadow by Silvio Moreno Garcia. I've been also wanting to read this one for quite some time. I read Mexican Gothic by this author last autumn and thought it was very disturbing but very well written, and I've been intrigued to pick up another book by this author. So I will actually be listening to this one by audiobook. I have the Audible audiobook downloaded, so I think it's about a 10 and a half, 11 hour audiobook, but I always listen to them sped up, so I can probably get through it in about 6 to 7 hours, depending how quickly I'm able to listen to it. So between a very short graphic novel and a slightly sped up audiobook, I should definitely achieve both of those within the first 12 hours, and hopefully also get a bit of sleep as well. So I will not be staying awake for 48 hours straight, of course, that would be very unhealthy, but I've been trying to look at the sprint schedule and plan when I'm going to sleep and when I'm going to aim to read. So I will try and watch at least part of Becca's first 4 hours of sprints, then go to sleep at some point, and also probably sleep through the 4 till 8 slot and try and wake up around 8 o'clock in time to catch the start of Jade's sprints at 8. But beyond that, I haven't really planned ahead, so we will see how productive I'm able to be and take things from there. But I'm really excited and very much looking forward to vlogging my process and showing you how I get on throughout this 48 hours. So but I'm going to get on with my evening now. It's about 8 o'clock, it will be getting dark soon, but I'm going to have a nice early bath, I think, and get myself all ready and maybe try and snooze for an hour or two before the sprints start at midnight. So I will see you very soon. Hello, it is now morning. It is about 8:30 and we've just got started with the first of the sprints of Jade's section of the readathon. Jade and Beth are both hosting these sprints together, two booktubers who I always enjoy watching, so I'm glad to have jumped back into sprinting for this one. So I've been very successful so far. I managed to nap for about an hour and a half before midnight and then got straight into Becca's sprints at midnight and stayed with those all the way through until she finished at 4 AM. And I managed to read my short book, which was a very short book, and I will get to in just a moment, and also read about, I think it was about 35 to 40%, I'm not sure, of Gods of Jaden Shadow, which I am now continuing in this latest round of sprints. I did then sleep between 4 and 8, basically. I probably got like 3.5 hours sleep during that time, so I'm reasonably tired, but not too bad. I have managed an adequate amount of sleep, which is okay. I'll survive on that for the rest of the day and then figure out what my strategy will be for the night section from Saturday into Sunday. So in terms of the books, my short book, as I told you last night, was The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill, which is a graphic novel, which is not something I read very much of, and I thoroughly enjoyed the experience of reading something different. I'm not going to give this one a star rating because, as I say, it's not a format that I particularly have ever read before. I think I've read 1 or 2 books that have featured sections of graphic novel but not been just a graphic novel in its entirety. So I've no idea how I would go about rating this because I've nothing to compare it to, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was super short. I think The actual graphic novel is about 70 pages long. I read it as an e-copy, so I don't know how that equates, but I got through it in about 15 minutes. It was very, very quick. But I loved the story. I thought it was so wholesome and heartwarming, really, really cute characters, and just such lovely moral messages. It kind of came across the same way that a children's story does, in that it's just showing you a character's journey of figuring out things about themselves and about the people around them, and everybody being there to help each other and to learn and to grow. And I just thought that was all really very sweet, and the characters themselves were just adorable. And the tea dragons, oh my gosh, I want one. It's just the cutest concept. I think they're absolutely gorgeous, and the artwork in general I think was really, really beautiful. It reminded me a little bit of kind of manga style, but not quite. It just had a bit of a flavour of that to me. But beautiful kind of pastel looking colours and gorgeous countryside scenes, as well as the characters themselves as well. I just really, really liked this. So I would definitely read the other books in this. I think it's a series or just companion novels, but I think there's another 2. So they're very, very good choices for readathons because they are so short, and I'm sure can be made to fit lots and lots of different prompts. There was some LGBT rep in there was disability rep as well, just through the images, as well as having like animal characters and all the rest of it. So I think they'll be very, very good readathon choices. But yeah, a really, really good start to the readathon, and I thoroughly enjoyed that one. The other book, as I said, that I'm partway through now, I'm about halfway nearly, is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvio Moreno Garcia, which I'm really, really enjoying. So like I said last night, I have previously read Mexican Gothic by this author. This is very, very different, apart from the fact that they are both set in Mexico, which I believe is where the author's background or like family heritage or whatever is from. So they have similar feelings in terms of the culture, but otherwise poles apart. Mexican Gothic was one of the most disturbing books I have ever read. It was not my usual genre. I enjoyed it, but it was weird. This one is a lot more me in a way. So it's set in the 1920s in Mexico. So I like historical fiction. I love the 20s especially, actually, not for books necessarily, but just as a period of time. So it's great to read about that. And I don't really read much set in Mexico. I don't know much about the culture or about the places or anything. So I'm enjoying discovering that side of the culture. And of course it does have the fantasy element in that we feature the gods that it describes in the title. So we have a lot of, I think, Mayan or Aztec kind of folklore references. So there's various different gods in this story. And our main character, Cassiopeia, is a bit of a kind of Cinderella type character at the start. She's living with her mother in her grandfather's house, and he is this big, scary, patriarchal character who controls all of the women in his family around him. And Cassiopeia basically has to work as a servant for her grandfather and is looked down on by all the rest of the family, especially her cousin Martin, who she despises. But she one day stumbles across this mysterious chest in her grandfather's room, which is full of bones. And by an accident, basically, of her investigating these bones, she ends up resurrecting this Mayan god, who then whisks her away on a great adventure, and so the story continues. It's really, really fun so far. I'm loving the god's character. I cannot pronounce his name, I'm very sorry, but I won't even attempt it. I am listening via audiobook, but I can't visualise what the word would look like to know how to pronounce it myself, and the narrator does a very good job with the Mexican Spanish accent, which I absolutely cannot do, so I won't attempt it. But the god is a wonderful character. He very much fits into the kind of silent, dark, brooding male character who I think underneath is actually quite nice, which is usually a trope that I particularly enjoy in books. So I'm intrigued to see how his and Cassiopeia's relationship develops, and if there is anything romantic in there, or if it's just going to be more of a companionship or a friendship or whatever. But I find their exchanges very, very interesting, and being such vastly different characters but uniting in a common goal, and I feel like they will learn from each other, and it just seems set to be really, really exciting. So I'm thoroughly enjoying that one so far. It's very nicely narrated as an audiobook as well, so I'm glad I'm listening to it in that format. And yeah, that's where I'm at so far. That was a big long ramble, but I'm very, very glad that I'm making good progress so far. I think I am probably on track to get through this audiobook during Jade and Beth's section of the sprints. We've got a few more hours, I think 3 more hours basically. And I am listening to the audiobook on double speed, so I probably will be there or thereabouts for finishing at midday. if I have to roll over slightly, I will do. I'm not sure if I will stick with the sprints beyond the roll drop into the afternoon, because I do want to actually go out today. I want to go and see some nature and have a lovely walk in the woods or the hills or something, because I have no other plans this weekend other than reading, but fresh air and nature are always a good thing. So that's the strategy for the rest of the day. I don't know what books I will end up picking for the next roll drop, but I will check in and let you know what I select around midday, and we can take things from there. So let's get back to reading. Hello, time for a reading update. It is now 12:20. I haven't quite managed to finish Gods of Jade and Shadow during Jade's sprints. I have about an hour and 45 left on the speed I'm listening to this, but I hopefully can actually sit down and complete that very, very soon. I got a little bit distracted with other things I needed to sort and people to talk to and all sorts of stuff, but I think I'm done with that now. So hopefully I can concentrate on finishing that book before I get on with anything else. We have had the next set of roll drops. We just switched over to Aaron from Booked and Busy's sprints, and she has shared the next prompts with us. So the first one I think will be very, very easy. So it was to read either an ebook or an audiobook. Fortunately, all of the things I had earmarked for this readathon are pretty much all ebooks or audiobooks, so it gives me lots of choice. However, the one I've decided to go for is A Pocket Full of Crows by Joanne Harris. Now, I've never read anything by this author before, but I've seen her a lot when I've been perusing bookshops over the years, and she writes a lot of books I think based on Norse mythology, which look really, really interesting, but for some reason I've never got around to picking one up. I don't know why. I just haven't, but I definitely want to. This particular one is not part of that series or that type of story, I don't think. From what I understand, I don't know much about this, I just stumbled across it on Audible, but from what I can tell, it is Joanne Harris's version of writing a new fairy tale. So it's not based on a fairy tale from the past, but it is very much in that style and that type of writing and themes and things that you find in fairy tales. So this appeals to me a lot. I love anything based on fairy tales, based on folklore. It's only very short as well. I think it's only a few hours long, the audiobook, so it shouldn't take me very long. So as I say, I'll be listening to that one through Audible. And I'm actually really excited. I like the idea of going into a story knowing pretty much nothing about it. So I think it could be a good one. Fingers crossed that it does actually deliver, but I am hopeful about this one. The second prompt was a little bit harder to find anything for, so it was to read a book with a colour in the title. Now, I looked through all of my shelves, all of my TBR lists that I'd got on my computer of things that I wanted to get to at some point, and I couldn't find a single book with a colour in, which was really, really frustrating. So me being me, it wouldn't be a me vlog if I didn't include some sort of murder mystery. I turned to my trusty Agatha Christie shelf and sure enough found The Mystery of the Blue Train, which is one of the Hercule Poirot books. Of course, perfectly fits the prompt, blue is a colour. I haven't read this book for a very long time. I did read it probably 10 years ago-ish, and I kind of remember the story, but not loads about it. So I'm looking forward to getting into this one. It's, as usual with Agatha Christie books, not that long. They're usually between sort of 300, 350 pages. This one's slightly longer actually, 372, but still not particularly big book, and they are quite quick to read, so I should get through this one in a couple of hours this afternoon. So my plan, once I've finished off Gods of Jade and Shadow, is then to head out for a walk. I might start listening to A Pocket Full of Crows audiobook while I am out, depending if I'm on my own or if I have any company, or if I'm needing to talk or do anything else. But I will definitely start that one off fairly soon, and then I plan to be back home by 4 o'clock in time to watch Ashley from Frolic Through Fiction sprints from 4 till 8, and I will probably start this one during those. Her sprints are apparently going to be dark academia themed, which is an aesthetic I very much enjoy. Obviously this isn't strictly academia, but it's a murder mystery, so I feel like it's close enough to fit. It seems fairly appropriate. So I will crack on with Gods of Jade and Shadow right now, and I will check in with you later once I am back home from my walk. You may see some B-roll in the meantime and give you an update with what I've got started with next. 2 books down, I am now just starting my third prompt, the audiobook of A Pocket Full of Crows by Joanne Harris. I will go and enjoy the sunshine and let you know how I'm getting on once I'm back. now Sunday morning and I'm feeling a bit behind this morning. So I didn't manage to nap before the midnight sprints last night, so consequently fell asleep about 2 hours into Gavin and Lexi sprints. So I haven't got quite as much read as I would have liked to, and I've only just woken up now this morning at about 9 o'clock. So okay, still gives me all day, but I do have a few things I have to get done this morning. I've got some family errands to do, which will mean a couple of hours out that I won't be able to read. So I'm hoping for the remaining prompts that come up that I'll be able to double them up, so maybe combine the 2 prompts from the same roll drop from last night, for example, and see where we go from there. So in terms of reading, I have finished 3 books. So I did manage to finish The Mystery of the Blue Train last night, which I will talk about in a moment, but very enjoyable. Always love a good Agatha Christie, 4 out of 5 stars, pretty solid choice. I am, however, not very far at all into A Pocket Full of Crows. I'm really liking it, but I think that will be my priority for this morning, although I do need to pick my next books. So the roll drops we had last night on Gavin's sprints were, first of all, to read a YA book, so young adult book, and also to read a spooky book, or a book with a spooky cover. So I need to have a look and see what I've got that I can combine those 2 together and find a spooky YA. Now, I don't read a ton of YA, but I probably can find plenty out there. And I do also have a list of books I've been specifically waiting to read during spooky season, during autumn. So I'm going to consult that list and try and find a YA one on there that I can also get hold of somehow, because I probably won't own it. I don't tend to pre-buy books unless I know that they're part of a series I want to read and things like that, so I will try and find maybe an ebook or an audiobook of one of those, and I will let you know. Okay, so I have had a look through my list of books, and I think I found one which is actually a perfect fit for the 2 prompts together. So the one I've come up with is Vespatine by Margaret Rogerson. Now, I have read Sorcery of Thorns by this author before and really enjoyed it. I know she has a bit of a hit or miss vibe with a lot of people, but I personally did really enjoy Sorcery of Thorns, and this one seems very promising, and it most certainly is spooky. So it seems, from what I can tell about the synopsis, to follow a young girl who is training to be kind of a nun type character so she lives in a convent, and they basically deal with dead bodies to cleanse their souls so that the spirits don't come back and seek revenge. And there seems to be all sorts of dark magic and relics, and it just all seems particularly spooky, and I like that kind of vibe. So I'm excited to get back into Margaret Rogerson's writing, and hopefully it will have a similar feel to it to Sorcery of Thorns, which, as I say, I did enjoy. It's kind of an average length book. I think it's about 400 pages, but I have found an audiobook for it on Scribd, so that's how I will be consuming the story. And as I say, it is YA as well, so it seems to fit perfectly with the prompts. So fingers crossed I can get to this one later and it will be really good. I don't know much about it, but that's the synopsis I've found on Goodreads, so we're going with that. But I don't even remember why I've written this one on my list of books I want to read, but I tend to keep a list when I hear other booktubers or people I know talk about books, and I'll write them down and think, yeah, I'll try that one day. So we will see how this one goes, but that is my choice for the next 2 prompts. Cozy Sunday breakfast, and carrying on with my audiobook. Hello, so I've just come out for a walk on Sunday afternoon and realised that I never actually did update you on my thoughts of The Murder on the Blue Train by Agatha Christie, which I did really enjoy, and so I do want to tell you about that before I get completely lost in other books. So, like all Agatha Christie's, I loved the story, I loved the feel of the writing. It's just such a wonderful period piece for me, and I always loved that kind of thing. But this particular one started really promisingly, actually. It started really differently to a lot of things that she has written in the past. So it had almost kind of an espionage feel. You thought maybe we're going to get like Russian spies and things like that in the story, which actually didn't end up coming to much, but was a particularly intriguing way to open the book. So the story mainly follows, so we have a character called Ruth Kettering at the start of the book who is about to embark on a train journey on the Blue Train across France down to the French Riviera. Ruth is the daughter of an American millionaire businessman called Rufus van Olden, and before she embarks on this trip he gifts her a very lavish gift of some rubies, which are particularly famous. They're called the Heart of Fire. Very expensive, and he warns her, do not take these on the trip, keep them safe, keep them at home. But Ruth, of course, does not listen. So she sets off on this trip with her maid and her rubies in tow, and the very next morning
disaster has struck and the body of Ruth is found in her compartment. This is not a spoiler, it's on the back of the book, so it happens very early on. I'm not really spoiling it for you. So of course we then follow the mystery around who killed Ruth, what happened, was it suicide, was it her husband, was it somebody just after stealing the rubies, and it was a very typical story from there. And of course we have the wonderful Hercule Poirot working alongside and in some ways against the French police trying to solve this murder. I just love these kind of stories. You always have a very almost stereotyped but very recognisable and comfortable cast of characters. So we also have a young woman on the train who is kind of a new heiress about to stay with her family, also on the French Riviera. This family are very eccentric. You've got the young wealthy businessman, you've got an older woman who is married to him, you've got her daughter who's very sort of young and eccentric and full of life. You've got lots and lots of different characters, and it's always so much fun to read about what were probably quite stereotypical characters of that time period, as well as things like what they eat and what they wear, and I just love it. I love these books. I've raved about Agatha Christie so much, but they're always such wonderful reads. So this one I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed the story. As I said, didn't end up being quite as unusual as I was expecting, although I had read this before, I'd just forgotten that element of it. I do remember when I first read this one, I did guess part of the plot, so it's a sort of 2-stage murder plot, if you like, and one half of it I did guess. So I mean, I've read enough of these, I should be able to guess things by now, but certainly didn't get all of it, so it was a very intriguing story. So that was that one. I have also, previous to coming out for this walk, finished off A Pocketful of Crows by Joanne Harris, which again I really, really enjoyed. Another 4 out of 5 star. This was such an unusual book. It was definitely exactly what it was supposed to be, in that Joanne Harris had written a fairy tale. Even though it was written in modern day, it felt very authentic. It felt exactly like the kind of fairy tales that I read that other stories would be based on. It didn't feel like a retelling or anything like that. It was strange in parts, as fairy tales usually are, but also had these wonderful descriptive passages. It had lots of links to nature and to old magic and witchcraft and things, and it was just a beautiful, whimsical sort of story. Very, very quick really to get through. It was only a couple of hours at the speed I was listening to the audiobook, but I'm so glad I've read this, and I most definitely will be reading this again, and definitely now will read more by this author too, because I was very, very impressed with the way that she crafted her sentences and the way that she built this world and this imagery. It was absolutely beautiful. So very, very impressed. A high 4 star, and really glad that I've read this one. So we have quite a lot of work still to do for this readathon. So as I said, I come out for a walk. I will shortly be showing you some b-roll, I'm sure. I'm planning to listen to some of Vespatine by Margaret Rogerson on this walk. I don't think I'm going to manage to get through all of this and at least one other book for the next and final roll drop, but we will see. At least if I can have started books for all of the roll drops, I will feel somewhat accomplished. I don't know, but I'm really intrigued about Vespatine, so I'm looking forward to getting that one started now. I will give you my thoughts on that one a bit later, and also let you know what I'm reading, or how my reading is going rather, for the next roll drops. So the prompts we had were, first of all, feed scroll. So you're supposed to scroll through one of your social medias and pick the first book that you find. I don't really follow people on social media about books, so unless I was to go through YouTube and pick a video that someone's talked about a book, and then I'm very unlikely to actually own it or be able to find it. So I'm not going to bother with this prompt. I'm instead just going to focus on the other prompt for this final roll drop, which was a book that features water in the cover or in the title. So I'm going to go with The Thief Who Sang Storms, which is the 4th book by Sophie Anderson, which I have loved all of the previous ones of. It's not a sequel exactly, they're kind of companion books, but there is some overlap between the worlds in her previous books. I don't know if that's the case with this one, but I've been meaning to pick this one up for a while, and the cover does feature waves and water and seabirds and things like that, so it feels appropriate. I don't know. I have an ebook version of this through Scribd, so I will pick that one up later this evening once I'm home, but as I say, for now Vespatine is the goal, so I'm going to go out and enjoy some sunshine, enjoy my beautiful walk in nature, and I will check in with you a bit later and probably wrap up this vlog this evening.
Hello! So I was very bad yesterday and I did not finish off this vlog, so it is now actually the next day, it's the next evening. I am home from work and decided I had better wrap this vlog up before I read any more and don't give you accurate thoughts. So Bookoplathon is now over. I have had the most wonderful time with this and I've been very, very productive. I didn't end up reading all of the books that I had started, but I did make good progress with all of them. So last night I did join back on with the sprints for a little bit longer. I probably went to sleep about 11:15 or something. I just couldn't stay awake any longer. So I didn't end up finishing out the full 48 hours right to the end. But even if I had, I wouldn't have finished all of my books anyway, so I don't think it really matters. So I did manage to finish The Thief Who Sang Storms by Sophie Anderson and really, really liked this book. It carried on in the theme of all of Sophie Anderson's previous works of being some of my favourite middle grade content. I love the way she writes characters. I love that general feeling of positivity and community and friendship in the most unlikely places and fighting through difficult situations with that beautiful childhood simplistic positivity that everything will get better because you believe it will. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was a different sort of setting to the previous books by Sophie Anderson. It was a bit more expansive in a way. I felt like our character went on a bit more of a journey. There was more scope of characters involved. It wasn't just a very, very minimal setting, and I felt like it appealed to a slightly older audience. I don't know if that's because our main character just felt more mature to me or because of the story itself, I'm not sure, but it felt a little bit older in theme than some of the previous ones. I always love all of Sophie Anderson's middle grades. I think my favourite is still Castle of Tangled Magic, but I have loved all of them, honestly, and I'm very, very glad that I did read this one. I thought the animal companions were absolutely adorable as well. It's always a positive point in the story. And I really, really hope she continues to write more middle grade books in the same theme. I also love that there is a slight little crossover to some of her previous works. They're not sequels, but if you've read them, you'll know there are little themes that come through and characters that might make slight appearances, and I love that. It's great fun. So that was my book for the water prompt for the final roll drop. The one which I didn't get to finish was Vespatine by Margaret Rogerson. So this one I am really, really enjoying as well. I'm basically halfway through, but I feel like I haven't got really concrete thoughts on this. I think the opening was very, very strong. I loved the way that it started. I'm very, very intrigued by the concept of these mysterious nuns and their quest to preserve souls from damnation, and it's just a really odd but intriguing concept. It's much, much darker than the rest of the books I've read in this readathon and indeed recently, but I'm really liking it and I'm intrigued to see where this goes. I have been listening to the audiobook and, as I say, I'm getting on for halfway through, but still several hours left, so I would not have finished it last night even if I'd carried on reading. But that, I think, will be my goal for the rest of the week. Certainly won't be reading as productively as I have over the weekend, but I will do my best to finish this book at least this week and maybe pick up another one for the final week of the month. We will see. So, without further ado, I'm going to wrap this vlog up here. I feel like it's been a very, very long one, but I've had a great weekend. Thank you very much to Becca for running Bookoplathon once again. It's always one of my very favourite readathons, and I look forward to taking part in future rounds. I will link the Twitter down below in the description box in case you want to be updated of when we have another round of Bookoplathon coming. But as I say, I will wrap this vlog up here. Thank you very much for watching as always. Leave me a like down below if you enjoyed it. Chat to me in the comments about any of the books I've mentioned. Did you take part in Bookoplathon also? Anything else you'd like to discuss with me? I always love to chat to you. And please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content from me. It really means a lot and it helps me grow my channel. I will see you again very soon in the next video, so goodbye for now.